Hey guys, Furum here, and today I'm going to be testing the Bugatti Chiron at 5 stars in multiplayer in Asphalt 9. The last time I tested my own Chiron in multiplayer was on January 1st, 2019, over 2 years ago, just after I won it at 4 stars in its special event, the first special event to come to Asphalt 9. But recently, in the past few months when packs for this car came out, I was able to upgrade it to 5 stars, and here is the result of that. And I can say, this car at 5 stars is just awesome to drive. You still have the issues with the wall riding, and there nothing happened but on turns like the one on Cairo, for example. Any long wall rides that you have to do, there is a very high chance that you will flip on your side and wreck. That is one thing that you always have to keep in mind when you are playing in this car, but if you're just touching the wall, going along it for not too long, you probably don't have to worry about it. It's only when you go on it for a long time. Now, this car has one of the highest top speeds in the game, not like the highest, the Chiron, the Regera, the Jesko, the Tuatara, all those are faster, but at 5 stars it goes 287 miles per hour, which is pretty good, and is faster than everything else but the very top S-Class cars. And I was even able to stay ahead of this Chiron at the very end of this race, even though he nearly passed me at the last second, and we came in first place at the exact same frame as that Chiron. I mean, you saw us go across the finish line like right next to each other. And now we're on to a race on Osaka. So not much has changed drastically between 4 and 5 stars, but overall I can say one thing. The car just feels a bit more light and not really floaty, but just a bit more agile and, well, I mean, it wasn't cumbersome before, but it feels even more like driving the Trion Nemesis now, if that makes sense. Just really, really easy, I guess. Compared to 4 stars, the 5-star Chiron is 3 miles per hour faster, and the drifting radius is definitely tighter from what I've noticed. And I can tell you that after driving this car a lot in the current Ghost Slipstream season, this car, being around since the very beginning of Asphalt 9, can still hold its own against all of the new Kings and other top-end S-Class cars that have come to the game after the Chiron was released, because it is just such a well-rounded S-Class car. It is very good in pretty much every aspect that you could think of. Of course, there are going to be better cars than it in every aspect, because this car is not one that focuses on any one stat, but instead on all of them. And if you just want a pretty reliable S-Class car that's going to be quite good no matter what track you give it, the Chiron is definitely a good one. Because if you think about it, cars like the Jesko or the Tuatara, which have really high-end top speed, might not have as good of acceleration or nitro efficiency, and so on certain tracks, like some of the twistier or shorter ones, they might be at a bit of a disadvantage if they can't get up to that top speed. The thing is, on most tracks, you are not going to be getting above this 287 miles per hour top speed anyway. And so, if you can balance that out with some other really good stats, you're in a very, very good position. I know, it might sound like I'm just fanboying over the Chiron, but really, just from my experience, nothing quite feels like this car and has been around for as long as this car with such power in the game. One of its newest competitors, which is one that has been popping up in multiplayer a lot more recently, is the Zenvo TS1, which isn't one that you would really think of as being a big competitor, but the thing is, this is one of the few S-Class cars that a lot of people are going to be able to get to completely max, along with the Fenner. But I would argue that the Zenvo is even slightly better than the Fenner. It's just more agile, it drifts better, and its top speed is about the same. Overall, I do like driving it a little bit better than the Fenner. But in the last race, and in the one before it, the Zenvo was our main competitor. It's not as fast as the Chiron, but it's got that same just really good drifting and overall easy drivability. And I made a video recently about my own Zenvo at 4 stars, and whenever I get that to max, probably, hopefully after some multiplayer seasons, if they don't switch out the car again, I'll make another video about it, because I'm definitely wanting to do one with that car. I forgot to mention one thing about the Chiron. On ramps, it can sometimes be a little weird. I've had multiple times when testing the car in this season where when going off a barrel roll especially, it sometimes doesn't do it normally, but does that weird like sideways flip that it did back there. I don't think it cost me any races, but it came mighty close, because if that had put me on my top, I would not be ahead like I am now. But as you'll see later in this race, the car also has another weakness, which I have pointed out earlier. Now, our main competitor is a Tuatara, a 5-star one with all of its upgrades, and here is the Chiron's problem. You hit a wall too hard, it just flips over, and there's nothing you can do about it. But remember, this is Slipstream, and there is a turn coming up that cars without long nitro really can't get over with a lot of speed. But if you have enough nitro by nitro surfing, by going on their Slipstream, you can get up to a lot of speed, and that's how I was able to pass that Tuatara at the last second. Man, I just get really hyped up when I'm driving this car. I don't know what it is exactly about it, but there isn't really another car in the game that can do that quite as much as this one for me still, even newer cars. Now we have got a race against two Chiron Nemesises. Is it Chiron Nemesis? Would that make more sense? Like the plural of analysis is analyses? I think I have math on the brain. Analysis is one of those classes that I have to take toward the end of my math degree. But you're not here to hear about my schooling, you're here to see this car race. And a lot of races that I had in this season were very close ones, mainly because up in the 1900-ish level, almost everybody that I was facing was of extremely similar skill level. And if you think the ones so far have been close, just wait till you see the next race. Here we go up this final ramp just ahead of this Chiron Nemesis here, pretty much maxed one, and we round the final turn to shockwave into the finish line for the victory, a pretty close one though. After that race I was feeling pretty confident, but I did not know what was in store for me in this next race. We have got two other Chirons, an Inferno, as well as a Lycan, all of which are very high top speed oriented cars, as you guys know. And unfortunately, I was immediately off to a disadvantage by being put in the front. But as I could see here, my speed was better than that of the Lycan, obviously, but also better than that of the Inferno as well, which goes around 271, I believe, and my car is about 16 miles per hour faster than that. But the Inferno is certainly not to be underestimated, as it is just a very well-rounded car overall too. And so this race was mainly a lot of going back and forth with the shockwave and the drifting and the floaty drifting, which I tried to do some of in this race, and surprisingly the Lycan gets up front. I think that's what happens a lot of times. You'll see one of the slower cars actually end up getting up front because it's just riding on the slipstreams of all the faster cars that don't have enough nitro to get up to their top speed. Anyways, we're coming through this section here, and here's where I make my fatal mistake. I go over that section of grass without a high-end nitro, and I come up to the finish line, unfortunately coming in fourth, but get this, the first place guy was only 2 frames ahead of me. All 4 of us toward the top were literally just 1 frame apart from each other. If I had used, say, perfect nitro across that one patch of grass instead of single nitro, I probably would have gone up to second place, maybe even come in first. It is insane just how much little mistakes, little errors, little differences can make in your races, especially when you're playing against really good players who are all in really good cars. That's what you'll find when you're around the 1900-ish rank. Almost everybody is going to be in Trions, or Regeras, or Infernos, or Zenvos, or other cars like these. You're pretty much not going to see any A-class cars anymore, although I did see a few earlier on in this race. But coming up here, I feel like I did this section pretty well. I got through there without losing much speed, wall rode as long as I could. Flat spun here so I could go up this ramp with the shockwave. The thing is, this is Himalayas. Unfortunately, for how fast this car is, 2 of the cars I'm facing are even faster, namely this Regera and this Chiron Nemesis. And unfortunately, there's just nothing I can do about that. As I come up to this final turn, I shockwave, but they're just the slightest bit faster than me, and they come in again, just frames ahead. 1 frame ahead of me, both of them, and they tied. Again, another race where any little difference could have made the difference in the outcome of the race. That's not really something you see all that often, but those 2 races happen right after one another, and they really get your heart pumping when they happen like that. And those are the kinds of races I just love to put in videos, because they really show just the raw intenseness of some of the multiplayer races that you can get into. And thankfully though, for this final race here, which took place just after those 2, I did get a bit of a breather, and so now it's time for me to give my general review about this car. Obviously, as you can tell throughout the video, I really like it. It's still one of my favorite cars in the game to drive. I might say it is still like my favorite car in the game, just overall with everything considered. It's got amazing top speed, top-notch acceleration, and the drifting radius at 5 stars especially has become very, very tight. The nitro efficiency isn't anything special. It's pretty average, I would say, but is definitely good enough to keep this car up to its top speed for about as much as you'd expect for it, coupled with that acceleration. So guys, thank you all so much for watching. Please like the video if you have enjoyed, and consider subscribing for more Asphalt and other games content. And I will see you in my next video. Goodbye!